Welcome to the Holistic Soul Sisters Radio, a channel created to help you heal holistically and grow spiritually. I'm your host, Mandy Rose. I'm not afraid to talk about taboo subjects, so nothing is off limits here. Make sure you hit subscribe and get ready to learn more from me and other experts on all things health, spirituality, astrology, lifestyle, relationships, and so much more. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Let's begin. Hello, Holistic Soul Sisters. It's me, Mandy Rose. I am back with another episode. The last episode I put out was the IMO episode, in my opinion, and that was the 10 mottos I live by. That was my birthday episode. I recorded that back in August, and now here we are in October. These last 2 months have flown by. If you follow me on social media, you saw that I was hanging out with my family in Europe for 6 weeks. Traveled to Greece, spent some time getting to know my boyfriend's family, and it was just such a beautiful disconnect from all the busyness and all the go, go, go and all the projects I had. I really just soaked up the time with family, was super present. I was barely on social media. It was the weirdest feeling. After about 4 weeks, I was like, I have no idea what's going on with my friends, what's going on in the world. I haven't watched the news. Like, what is going on out there? But there was also this beauty and just being so present and harmonious and balanced and just connecting with the things in life that bring me joy. So much needed, super refreshing. And then, of course, as soon as we got back to the United States, it was full go time on recording new episodes for Holistic Soul Sister Radio, going back to doing the astrology videos on Holistic Soul Sisters TV over on the YouTube channel. And then, of course, it is time for me to write the next year's retrograde astrology journal. I cannot believe we're almost to 2022, so I had to dive into the astrology for 2022, been working on editing the journal, making it even better. So if you purchased a retrograde journal for 2021 and you're interested in purchasing another one for 2022, stay tuned. This one's going to be even better, and the astrology next year is actually looking pretty good. We're going to get a little bit of a pass before it gets crazy again in 2023 and so on. So now we are going to go into the next mini series. I was really debating what should I do. I'm definitely going to be doing one on plant medicine. I just want to find the right people to bring on as guests for that episode. So be patient. That'll probably come out in the beginning of 2022. But for now, I've had so much interest and conversations with people all about energetic healing. And this is something I use to heal myself from mold toxicity, something I use to get through my divorce and heartbreak, and something that's allowed me to really just heal deep-rooted trauma and fears and actually help me get over anxiety. Anxiety is something I've lived with my entire life, and I never understood why. So all forms of energy healing. We're going to talk about acupuncture and traditional Chinese medicine and how it uses the energy points and meridians in our body. We're going to talk about the woo-woo stuff like past life regression and mediumship and psychic abilities. We're going to talk about crystals and chakras. We'll talk about essential oils and the vibration of plants and how that can help lift our own vibration. Quantum physics. I'll have experts coming in talking about the science, of course, right? Because we have to talk about the science. Energy healing can be seen as very woo-woo and spiritual, but there is scientific evidence when it comes to quantum physics and energy and vibration and frequency. So I just want the mini-series to be really inspiring. I also want it to be knowledge-based so that you feel like you can grasp the concepts. And I also want to kind of open your mind, take you outside of that box where spiritual and energy healing seems so woo-woo, taboo, out of the norm, and make it very interesting for you guys to maybe incorporate this into your own healing journey or into the next phase of your life so you can level up and become your highest version of yourself. So this mini-series is going to be amazing. It's going to be 8 weeks of episodes. But before we dive into that, there are 2 episodes I thought were really, really important to address before we get into all the woo-woo energetics. And this first one is going to be on parasites. Now, why the heck would I talk about parasites when we're talking about energetic healing? Well, that's mainly because parasites are something that every single human on planet Earth experiences, deals with, and sometimes it can get out of control and lead to health issues. And parasites are a pathogen. There's many forms, many types. They're not just like the worms that we think of when we think of parasites, but they're opportunistic. And they use our body, not just human bodies, but all mammals. We know pets and cats and dogs and horses, they also get parasites. So they use us as hosts. And when they do, they decrease our consciousness, they decrease our frequency, and they don't allow us to think clearly anymore. And we're going to dive into all of that in this episode, the science behind that. We're going to talk about symptoms of parasites, how to know if you have them. We're going to talk about mental health and how there's studies that have related to parasite healing and cleansing and improving mental health. And we're also going to talk about how we get them, right? How do we get them? How do we prevent them? And then most importantly, how do we get rid of them? I have done probably 6 to 10 different parasite cleanses. Some I've repeated multiple times, but overall, probably 6 different types of them over the course of the last 4 years. And every single time I've ever done one, I've experienced some next level of healing. The first time it was gut health. The second time it was my mental health and thinking more clearly. The third time was more for like my skin issues and they started to improve. The fourth time I noticed my hormones started getting better. So there's layered approaches, and one parasite cleanse isn't going to heal and cure everything. But I still want to explain it to you guys and introduce it to you because this is something that can really be the beginning starting point of not only healing your physical body, but healing that mental component to allow your consciousness to expand, allow your mental clarity to expand. And I think that's really important before we dive into the energetic healing, right? You can go to all the mediums, you can do acupuncture, you can do Reiki, you can do all the things. But if we don't clear our vessel, our human body vessel, we're still going to be experiencing the consciousness of those pathogens, right? Because they're in us and they're affecting us. So we are going to dive into this taboo topic. We're going to talk about some things that probably normally aren't discussed on a regular basis, and especially not at the dinner table in this episode. So just bear with it. I have this conversation all the time with my clients. It's something I usually start people with when they're on a healing journey, whether it's autoimmune or some fatigue or hormone issues. Parasites typically are the root cause of many, many health issues. And we're going to talk more about that in this episode. But just keep in mind that this is the foundational step to healing many things in our bodies. So I have this conversation with my clients all the time. So I'm going to give you guys all the details. I'm also going to answer some frequently asked questions that I get asked all the time about parasite cleansing. And if you're interested in doing one, I'm always available to work with you one-on-one. Once in a while, I will host a group parasite cleanse. I haven't done that in a while, but I do believe at the beginning of 2022, there is some interest. So stay tuned to my Instagram over at mandyrose.1111 or at holistic.soul.sisters Instagram page, because I'll be posting all that group parasite cleansing information. So let's dive into why we should be parasite cleansing and how it affects our consciousness and why it's the pivotal starting point for energetic healing. All right, so let's dive right into how parasites relate to energy healing. So it all deals with the consciousness, right? We have so many studies that show that parasites affect our cognitive abilities in many, many ways. And we'll dive into that science in just a moment. But I want you to kind of zoom out a little bit. Think of it this way. Parasites are pathogens. Pathogens are anything from virus, bacteria, candida, worms, all of these things. Those are pathogens. And all pathogens have their own consciousness, right? So they have their own motives, they have their own desires, and they go for it. So when these parasites enter our body and use us as a host, they therefore then decrease our consciousness. Their consciousness blends with ours, and their desires become our desires. We're going to talk so much more about that science in just a moment, but think about this one example. When we have sugar cravings, do you think that the human body actually craves sugar? Or do you think it craves fruits and vegetables and nutrients, right? But when parasites are using us as the host, they crave sugar. Candida, which causes yeast infections, they crave sugar. So they stimulate hormones that relate a message to the brain to tell us, eat more sugar. So, that is one direct example of how this consciousness, the desires and motives of these pathogens, then become our own consciousness. And overall, it will decrease our vibration. Our human body is meant to be full of vitality, full of energy, full of excitement, full of life. But when we have these pathogens using us as a host, they diminish our vibration, diminish our energy, diminish our excitement for life because they are robbing us of nutrients. They are preventing us from making happy brain chemicals. They are starving us of the building blocks that we need to create life in our body. So just remember, as we talk all about this, why it relates to energetic healing is because their vibration becomes our vibration by the pure fact that they live within us. We also know from scientific studies that our thoughts come from our hormones and our brain chemicals, right? So, for example, if you have high testosterone, you're typically prone to be more aggravated. You can jump to anger. You can be more volatile. Or if you have too much estrogen, right? Like women, we know this around our cycles. We can become weepy. We can be sad. We can think that the world is just like horrible and out to get us. And same thing with our brain chemicals. Serotonin, it's meant to make us happier. Dopamine is meant to make you more excited. But these parasites, they live in our gut and they disrupt this cycle of hormone creation. So, therefore, when these hormones are all off, they don't allow our brain to think clearly. And our thoughts come from these hormones and brain chemicals. So, in order for us to think clearer, we need to not be affected by the consciousness of these parasites. And more studies are coming out now looking at mental health and their correlation to parasites, which I think is so fascinating because we've been struggling with mental health in this society for a really long time. All these things that are very difficult to struggle with on a day to day basis. And in the next podcast episode that we're going to use as a platform to jump into energetic healing is going to be all about anxiety. And this episode, we're going to talk about how parasites can be the root cause of anxiety. In the next episode, we're going to talk about anxiety and how energetic healing can relate to anxiety. But for now, we're going to talk about how parasites correlate to mental health issues. I believe, as a holistic health coach, as a spiritual mentor, as someone who has gone through my own health journey, and I know from a personal experience how off my mental health was when I got diagnosed with 8 different parasites in my body. I couldn't think clear. I was always sad and depressed. I had so much anxiety. I thought the world was out to get me. I felt awful every single day. I had no joy. But as I started detoxing these parasites, my brain fog got clear. My energy started improving. My mood was just elevated. So I have seen this, and I just truly believe that if every single person in the world could do a parasite cleanse, could start ridding these pathogens from their body, the entire world would vibrate on a higher frequency and the consciousness of this planet would completely raise. I'm not saying this is the one stop shop, cure all, be all, but what I'm saying is that if we can rid these things from our body that are preventing us from being our highest self and our highest essence, we would be a lot better humans to each other. We know that if we feel crappy, we act crappy. We lash out. We have short fuses. We're impatient. We're cranky with our significant others. We go out into the world and just dump and purge our crappy feelings all over the place. So, if we can get to this root cause and healing some parasites and just elevating our hormones and our brain chemicals and just feeling like a lot better person, I feel like we will do better in this world. So, let's jump into the science because I know so many of you are probably wondering how the heck is parasite cleansing going to help my energetic body? So we have to start with the gut. Hippocrates, the ancient physician, said all disease begins in the gut. We know that our gut health is the most important part of our healing journey. Our immune system lies in the gut. The gut is where we transfer all of our food into the building blocks of our cells, our hormones, our brain chemicals. But it's also the place where we feel intuition. Let's think about this for a second in the energetic world. When an event happens in our life that we just have a weird feeling about, where do you feel it energetically? You feel it in your gut. If you experience love and you have this happy excitement, where do you experience butterflies? In the gut. So our gut is our intuition. So I always say we have to protect our gut like it's our life because it literally is our life. It helps guide us intuitively into the things that are good and bad for us. But it's also our life because that is where we turn all of our food into our life energy. We also know scientifically that we call the gut our second brain. It is called the second brain because we don't actually make our dopamine, serotonin, our hormones in our brain. We make them in our gut. We eat the food then gets turned into building blocks that get turned into the hormones and the brain chemicals. So our gut is called the second brain. Therefore, we have what's called the gut brain connection or the gut mind connection. Like I was mentioning a little bit ago, is that when we have a certain amount of hormones or brain chemicals in our bloodstream, we think different thoughts. We have too much testosterone, we think a certain way. We have too much estrogen, we think a certain way. We don't have enough dopamine, we think a certain way. So, creating the correct amount of brain chemicals and hormones from our gut health is going to determine how we think, how we feel, our mood, all of those things. So let's go to the gut healing. What do we need to know about the gut? So, one of the most important things I explain to people is that our gut lining is only one cell thick. So, think about it this way, it's only one cell. So, why is that? It's because we need to take our food that we eat and convert it down into tiny little building blocks that has to then go through that one cell and enter the bloodstream. So if that gut lining was thicker, we'd have a really tough time getting food from our digestive tract into the bloodstream. So one cell thick. But the negative to this is that anytime we take in something that's toxic, alcohol, prescriptions, food with glyphosate and pesticides on it, sugar, things that are not good for us, they bump into that cell wall, kind of like a bumper car smashing into it. And over time, that overexposure to toxins and negative chemicals will then diminish that cell wall and create little tiny holes and pockets. Therefore, the next time you go and eat something healthy, let's say a banana, that banana will then go through that cell lining without being properly digested and go directly into the bloodstream. And this is where we see food sensitivities coming in because let's say that banana goes into the bloodstream and now the body is like, whoa, 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 what's here? This is not what it's supposed to be. It's supposed to be broken down into its smaller format, but it just skipped through that little one cell thick lining and entered the bloodstream as a whole banana. So it's not really a whole banana. I'm just saying, like, think of it this way as a metaphor. Now the body's confused. This isn't what it's supposed to be here. And now it sends out these fighter cells and it attacks it. And then what happens when we have an attack? Think of a war zone, right? What happens when there's attack? There is dust and debris and shrapnel and things flying everywhere, creating chaos. And now in our bodies, we have this chaos, this war that's going on, which increases our inflammation, which increases all sorts of things in our body that's not supposed to be happening. So this is what we call leaky gut syndrome. I'll have a lot of clients that come to me and they say, I think I have a lot of food sensitivity. Should I get a food sensitivity test? And I always say, well, you definitely can. But what it's going to tell us is what we already know. You have leaky gut. You have a gut lining that is compromised and all of your food is going into your bloodstream. So of course, when you take a food sensitivity test, it's all going to come up positive because it's leaking into your bloodstream. So we got to go back and heal the gut lining. Now, how the heck does this relate to parasites? Well, parasites love to live in our gut because the gut is like their kitchen. We all love going to the kitchen because the kitchen has food. That's what our gut is to parasites. It's where their food source is coming from. So they absolutely love to live in our stomach, our gut lining, and our intestines. That's how they're going to continue hosting on us and thriving and growing. Now, what this does to us is it robs us of our nutrients. I always say, you're not what you eat, you're what you absorb. So imagine you have some parasites. They're living in your gut lining. They're hanging out there and you eat an apple, right? Apples are great. It's an organic apple. You spend a bunch of money on that organic apple and you eat it. But now those parasites are chilling and they're waiting and the apple comes into the digestive system. Great, they have a food source. So they now eat part of that nutrient from that apple. That then robs our body of the nutrients that we were supposed to absorb through that gut lining and put into our bloodstream to make different building blocks of our cells. So these parasites are kind of acting like these gatekeepers. They're robbing us of our nutrients, which therefore diminishes our health. Then our cells don't have the nutrition that they need to create new, happy, healthy cells. So this is a root cause of disease in our body. Now, I'm all about root cause solutions. I don't like to put band aids on things. I don't like to just take a pill, whether it's prescription or even a vitamin, that's just gonna mask your symptoms. I wanna get down to the root cause. So, this is why getting rid of parasites is gonna help get rid of the root cause. We're gonna get rid of these gatekeepers that are preventing our nutrients and our healthy food options from getting into our body. We're gonna stop that right there in the tracks. You could be doing all the right things for your health. You could be buying expensive supplements, like I said, organic foods. You could be eating clean. And this is where I see clients coming to me and saying, I'm doing all the right things. I'm doing everything I'm supposed to, but I'm not feeling better. Well, let's go to the root cause. Let's stop running in circles and let's get rid of these parasites that are stealing your brain chemicals, that are stealing your hormones, that are stealing the nutrients that you need to start healing. So, if you are someone dealing with anxiety, autoimmune issues, reflaring infections, things that just keep coming back over and over again, like UTIs and yeast infections, even cancer. I know so many people that have battled cancer and beat it and kicked some cancer ass only to get re-diagnosed 3 to 5 years later. Because again, we have to go back to that root cause. Remember, 90% of our immune system lies in our gut. Our good bacteria live in the gut, and they're constantly fighting a good fight for us to keep us healthy. But as parasites and pathogens of all different kinds, whether it's virus or candida or bacteria, overgrow, they are then going to, at one point, outweigh our immune system's ability to fight. So, getting rid of them is going to be the root cause answer to a lot of different health issues. And we're going to talk in just a moment about some symptoms, how you might know that you have parasites, but just know it's a very root cause because they're living in a space and they're taking away our energy source and they're taking away our food source and they're just decreasing our overall consciousness. So, what are parasites? I've kind of mentioned it a little bit so far. What are parasites? Well, they're opportunistic. They thrive and live by attacking their hosts, and their hosts are us. They grow, then they lay more eggs, then they grow some more. And they're not just worms. A lot of people hear the word parasites and they think worms, but they're microscopic pathogens. We have things from liver flukes to ringworm to tapeworms, and then also like even smaller, like things that you wouldn't even necessarily realize are parasites. They don't have to look like a worm. Most of us have had parasites since childhood. We can be unaffected for a really long time and have absolutely no idea that we have parasites because we have an amazing immune system. It's constantly kicking ass, and we can live with it until our immune system becomes overcompromised and it can't fight all of the fights at the same time. So let's say you have an episode where you get shingles later in life, right? So, this whole time, your immune system is working over here, keeping the pathogens down, making them hide, making sure they don't overgrow. But then all of a sudden, you get shingles, which is a huge viral outbreak in the body. The immune system will turn its attention on the acute infection, which is the shingles, turning its back on the parasites, allowing them to overgrow. This is what I experienced with mold toxicity, right? Mold toxicity wasn't the actual root cause of my health going downhill. What happened is the parasites were there, diminishing the function of my immune system because it was working so hard to fight those parasites that it turned its back on the mold, which allowed the mold to thrive and grow in my body, which allowed candida to come in, which allowed my Epstein-Barr virus to overactivate. The immune system couldn't fight all of the fights. So I went down a rabbit hole of trying to detox the mold and detox heavy metals and do all these things, but I would always land back at square one of not feeling well because those parasites were always there and my immune system was always fighting them. So you can have parasites your whole life, but at some point you'll get another infection. Like currently, right now, we're all dealing with this virus outbreak in the world, right? So let's say you get the COVID. All of a sudden, all these parasites can go crazy because your immune system is fighting the COVID. So, parasite cleansing has been something I have focused on with all of my clients since the beginning of this outbreak back in 2020. We got to get rid of those parasites so that if you get the COVID, your immune system can focus on that and only that. Now, another question I get is where the heck do parasites live? Well, we talked about in the gut, right? They love the gut, it's the kitchen. They're always wanting to hang out there because they know that there's food sources there. However, parasites can migrate from there all over our body. They can be in our liver, they can be in our brains, they can be in our stomach, they can migrate into our heart, right? We know dogs have heartworms. Same thing with humans. We're mammals, just like our pets. They can go into the lungs. This is something we see with people that have lung cancer. Oftentimes it's been misdiagnosed because in the scan, you can see a tumor or a growth, but in reality, it's just a polyp of parasites. We can have multiple different parasites in multiple different places in the body. And I know that this is really tough pill to swallow and to accept that we might have parasites in our brain, that we might have parasites in our heart, but they're real. And there's cleanses and herbs and things that we can do to get them out. So don't worry, just be aware that this is totally a possibility. So this leads us into how the heck do we get parasites? This is a question I get all the time because if we know where we get them, we can prevent them from coming into our bodies, right? And most people think we live in America. How the heck can I get parasites? We don't live in a third world country. I don't drink water out of streams. We have good food sources. So there's no way. But there is totally a way. Other cultures typically cook with herbs that kill parasites. They do parasite cleansing on regular basis. And this is countries like France, Brazil, very advanced countries. And they understand this concept that we are humans, we are mammals. All mammals can get parasites. We know that dogs and cats and horses, they get parasites, and we are no different. So if we're deworming our pets and deworming our animals, why aren't we doing the same for us? So yes, just because we live in America doesn't mean that we are not getting parasites. So how do we get them? Number one source is meats. Now, I know that that's a hard pill to swallow because if you're like me and you're a meat eater, you're like, oh my God, great. What am I supposed to do? Never eat meat again? No, we just have to become aware. So the meats that we eat that are uncooked or not fully cooked, such as beef, they can have parasites in them. Or sushi. This is something that is very common. Look at salmon and tuna. There are so many videos on the internet, and I suggest you don't look if you don't want to see this. But I have seen so many videos where someone slices open a salmon and there's a huge tapeworm in there. I've seen it in salmon when I go to Costco. I've seen it in salmon that I've actually cooked and eaten myself. So if you eat sushi, it's so important that you be parasite cleansing. Also, pork. Pork is so high in parasites. It's the number one meat that contains parasites because pigs don't sweat. And when they don't sweat, they're not detoxing out any kind of pathogenic load. So I never ever eat pork, even though I'm a meat eater, because of that parasite load. I do eat sushi, but I always make sure that I parasite cleanse or take some herbs the day of and the day after that I am consuming raw fish. Another source is fruits and veggies. We have all heard the story about the worm in the apple, right? We know that worms and parasite eggs and other microscopic bacteria can live on fruits and vegetables. They come from the dirt, they feed on the nutrients on that fruit and vegetable. So it's very important that we are soaking all of our fruits and vegetables in apple cider vinegar before we eat them. I always say 5 minutes for those fruits and veggies that don't have a rind. So things like apples where you're eating the rind, berries, tomatoes, things like that. And then 10 minutes soak in apple cider vinegar for fruits and veggies that have a rind. So things like pineapples, oranges, things that you would peel and take that outer shell. Another big source of parasites are our pets. We know that very quickly, if we aren't constantly deworming with heartworm medicine or flea medicine, that our pets can get all these different kinds of parasites. Now, let's just say you didn't deworm them in time, or maybe they started to get these parasites and you didn't even notice. Then your pet goes and licks you, or you pet them, or you pick up their poop, right? Parasites come out in poop. So you are doing all these things with your pets, and then you're touching your face, or you let them lick your face, and these parasites then get transferred into you, the perfect host, and then grow and lay eggs in your body. So pets definitely are a major source of parasites. Now, if you live up north, especially in the summertime, you spend a lot of time around water, and we can often get this lake water in our mouth or in our different body cavities. Think about it this way. Let's say you're having some beers out by the lake and all of a sudden you're drinking out of your can and a little bit of lake water gets on that can and then you drink it. Boom, parasite in your body. So this is another source. And lastly, a weak immune system. This is something I hinted to with my mold, right? My immune system became weak from the mold, which then allowed the parasites to overgrow. The more that they overgrew, the more my immune system had to fight them. Then it had to turn its back on the mold, and it's this perfect shitstorm in your body. So if you already have a weakened immune system, you have autoimmune, you've experienced cancer or precancerous cells, you have a weakened immune system due to all different health conditions, it is absolutely imperative that you decrease that pathogenic load in the body by doing a parasite cleanse, because you can just accumulate them quicker and quicker and quicker when you have a weakened immune system. So let's say, for example, let's go back. You have a weakened immune system and you eat an apple that has a parasite on it. You will then not be able to fight off that parasite, and it has an opportunity to grow in your body. If you have a strong immune system, it's going to see the parasite, it's going to get rid of it right away. So, very important to know where they come from. So, then it leads into people always saying, well, how would I know I have a parasite? So, you've told me that I probably have one because I probably got it from some pork that I ate or some sushi I had last week. So, now what? How do I know if that parasite is growing in my body? What are the symptoms? There are so many symptoms, so it would probably take me forever. So we're just going to focus on the most important. We're going to focus on the most obvious ones. But as soon as someone says, how do I know if I have parasites? I always say, number one, are you human? And number two, do you live on planet Earth? If you answer yes to both of these questions, then you definitely have parasites. So now that you know you have parasites, you're still wondering, well, how do I know for sure? What are the symptoms? What should I be looking out for to know for sure that it's affecting me and my health? So a lot of these things I'm going to go through for you guys in specifics are related to other health issues. But remember, parasites are the root cause of a lot of health issues. So it's no wonder that these symptoms of parasites are the same symptoms related to different health issues. So let's go down the list. Number one, mood disorders. We already talked about that. If parasites are robbing you of happy brain chemicals and your hormone production, you're going to think different thoughts. So mood disorders. Number two, strong sugar cravings. We mentioned that as well, right? Parasites crave sugar. Candida craves sugar because it wants to thrive and it wants to grow. And if you give it sugar, it can keep growing. So if you have a very strong sugar craving, you eat some candy and then an hour later you're craving more candy. A lot of times it's not you craving the candy, it's the pathogens, it's the parasites, it's the candida. So that's a second way to know if parasites are a root cause issue. Number three, anemia or any kind of iron issues, and in actuality, any kind of vitamin deficiency. So think about it. I said we are not what we eat, we are what we absorb. So you could be taking supplements, you could be taking iron supplements, you could be taking B12, you could be taking all the things. And if it's not helping, if your levels aren't going up after taking supplementation, if your levels aren't getting better, if you're eating cleaner, it's because, again, those parasites are the gatekeeper preventing these nutrients from being broken down and going into your bloodstream and then being turned into building blocks of new cells. So any kind of anemia, iron issues, vitamin deficiency, you're going to want to look at parasite infection. Number four, skin ailments. Our skin is the truth of our gut. So any kind of skin ailments, if you have cystic acne going on, eczema, psoriasis, rosacea, all of these things are typically bacteria, viruses, parasites in the body, in the gut, coming out through the skin. So I see this a lot with kids who have fungal infections, right? They have ringworm, or if you have cystic acne and you're constantly breaking out all over your cheeks, that's directly related to the stomach. So most skin ailments are directly correlated to parasites. Number five, of course, fungal infections, right? If you have parasites, you're able to grow more fungus. You either have mold, you have candida, different yeasts in the body. So again, it's that pathogenic load is so high with the parasites that your body's not able to fight all the infections at once. So any kind of fungal infections, ringworm, athlete's foot, ladies, if you get a lot of yeast infections, even a lot of recurring UTI infections, that can be all a root cause based in parasites. Number six, bleeding gums or any kind of dental health issues, gingivitis, grinding of teeth, root canals, a lot of cavities. Parasites can also live in the mouth. And think about it, our mouth is directly related to our gut. I mean, they are literally connected through our esophagus. So there's a direct path of anything that's in our mouth going into our gut. So if you have bacteria in your mouth and into your teeth, there's actual tests that you can take where they will take your saliva and then analyze your saliva for bacteria and virus and parasites. And whatever's in your mouth is then going into your gut. So any kind of mouth dental issues. Number seven, anxiety, nervousness, depression. This kind of goes with the mood disorders, but so much research is coming out now showing that after a parasite cleanse, you have an improved mood, you have a decreased brain fog. Mental clarity is something that most of us struggle with, whether it's ADD, trying to stay focused, being able to multitask, staying on task. When you do a parasite cleanse, I know firsthand whenever I am on a parasite cleanse, my mental clarity is on point. I'm able to be super productive. I'm able to work 8 hours a day without being fatigued. I mean, it's amazing how much you can improve your mental cognition by reducing the parasite load in the body. Now we're on to number 8. The number 8 symptom of parasites is sleep disorders. The reason for this is because parasites are nocturnal. They come out and they're most active at night when you're sleeping. So if you notice that at nighttime you're more irritated, you're more anxious, you wake up multiple times in the night, you can't stay asleep. Maybe you have frequent urination overnight. Again, parasites can get into the bladder and irritate you while you're sleeping. Melatonin is one of our major hormones that helps us sleep at night and to stay asleep. So again, if parasites are robbing you of your melatonin production, they're preventing you from creating enough, you're not going to sleep well. And on top of that, they're nocturnal, so they come out. So if you feel a lot of joint pain and fatigue and irritation at night, it's a good indicator that you have parasites. Number 9, now this one's super taboo, but I'm going to bring it up because it's a huge indicator of parasites. Number 9, anal itching. If you are constantly itching in your bottom or you're noticing that your kids are itching there, we see that happen with our pets, right? Our pets are constantly licking that part of their body or trying to scratch that part of their body when they have worms. And that's because we excrete out those parasites in that part of our body and then they can live there. It's moist, it's damp. A lot of fungal infections can grow there. So if you're having that symptom, definitely look into parasite cleansing. Number 10, food sensitivities. This is something almost everyone struggles with. And I'm not talking about food sensitivities like having an anaphylactic shock response, like eating shellfish and needing to go get an EpiPen. We're not talking about that kind of food sensitivity. We're talking about food sensitivities where, let's say you eat some eggs and you don't feel so well. You have some dairy and you feel inflammation. You have bananas and you get really bloated. That's the kind of food sensitivities we're talking about. Again, it goes back to when I was saying about parasites. They destroy our gut lining, and now these food sources are able to go into our bloodstream undigested, causing an inflammatory response because these fighter cells are like, whoa, 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 this food's not supposed to be here undigested. Let's kill it. Let's send out the army, creating disruption and inflammation in the body. So food sensitivities are a definite sign of parasites being in the way of proper digestion. Number 11, any kind of digestive issues, loss of appetite, bloated, nauseous, you just don't feel good when you eat food. That's a major sign of some type of pathogenic load in your digestive system, whether it's in the stomach, it's in the gut lining, they might be in your liver, preventing the proper bile flow, preventing the proper digestive enzymes from entering your stomach. So this can happen in a multitude of ways. But I always say when you eat, you should feel good after you eat. You should have broken down that food. It should have turned into energy. It should have turned into nutrients and then flooded your body with nutrition. If there is a block in that cycle, it's usually because something is preventing you from absorbing the food. Number 12, any kind of sexual dysfunction. It goes back to the hormones being off. When your hormones are off, your libido goes down, you're not able to make these happy brain chemicals, you're not able to feel desire, and you just don't feel like your sexual health is where it should be. So any kind of sexual dysfunction is a major indication of parasites. Number 13, fatigue. And that goes back to malabsorption. I don't want to over repeat myself, but fatigue essentially means that your cells aren't getting the proper nutrients to thrive and survive and to make you feel alive. Number 14, any kind of breathing problems. So asthma, if you get a lot of pneumonia, you get bronchial issues. These are all signs that you might have parasites in the lungs. So that's something we would need to address. Number 15, being hungry all the time. I know that if you have a high metabolism, you're probably hungry all the time. So that's not really what I'm talking about. I'm talking about you eat and then all of a sudden you just feel hungry again and you feel hungry again all the time. And this is something I see often with a lot of my clients who are having weight issues and taking weight off. They tell me, I'm just hungry all the time. So often that's because your body isn't getting the right nutrients. For example, let's say you have a hunger craving and you eat a pizza. Now, that pizza, number one, you have parasites in the way, does not get broken down into the nutrients that your body needs. Number two, there isn't a lot of nutritional value in that pizza to begin with. So the little bit of nutrients that are in that pizza then don't get absorbed because the parasites are in the way. And therefore, your body never got the nutrients it needed. So an hour later, it signals to the brain again, well, I'm still hungry. I need some more vitamin C. So let me tell this human to eat something, and then hopefully this time I'll get some vitamin C. And then you go and eat again, but now you eat some potato chips. Again, your body doesn't get the vitamin C because the parasites are in the way and what you're eating doesn't have a lot of vitamin C. So with parasites, if you are not over consuming nutritious food, you're not going to be absorbing even a minor amount of what you need. Hungry all the time, major symptom of parasites. And the last one we're going to talk about, number 16, is joint issues. Parasites love to live in our muscles and our joints. We see this in animals all the time, right? So if an animal has parasites like fish, we're going to see it typically hanging out in the muscle. So this is what happens when they enter our body. They will bury into our joints and into our muscle tissue. So you can feel a lot of joint pain, a lot of joint inflammation, back pain, things like that. So these 16 symptoms are just the beginning of a laundry list of different ways we can know if you have a parasite infection that needs to be taken care of. Of course, there are so many more to talk about, but those are just your basic ones. Now, you're probably saying, well, I have fatigue because I only sleep 4 hours a night. Okay, well, why do you only sleep 4 hours a night? Is it because you don't have enough melatonin? Is it because parasites are keeping you awake and making you use the restroom multiple times a night? Is it because you're having a lot of anxiety or nervousness? They all kind of relate together, right? And they all come back to that root cause. Now, another way to know that you have a parasite infection is around the time of the full moon. We always hear the legend. You can hear it from healthcare professionals. Whenever there's a full moon, the crazies come out, right? The crazies come out. But we know from scientific studies that parasites are most active around the time of the full moon. And that is because they are affected by water, by melatonin, by different hormones in the body because they feed off of them. They love them. And so at the time of the full moon, we have different hormones because humans, we are meant to cycle with the moons, especially women. Women, we cycle with our hormones every 28 days. And that's the same number of days in a moon cycle, 28 days. So if you are someone that when the full moon comes around, you notice that whatever health issue you have going on, whatever symptoms you experience get worse around the full moon, it's a clear indication that parasites are to blame. You can feel off, you can have more joint pain, you can have insomnia, you can feel sicker. So if let's say you're dealing with Epstein-Barr virus, all of those symptoms get worse. So notice around the full moons, how do you feel? Do you feel the same? Or do you all of a sudden feel super, super off? Because that's another major indication that parasites are to blame. So now that we dove into all the symptoms and you're like, oh crap, I definitely have parasites. What do I do now? Let me help you figure out what to do now. It's always funny whenever I have a client and I tell them you need to do a parasite cleanse. They look at me with this fear-based stare. They're like, oh my God, what does that entail? How horrible is this going to be? I don't know if I could do it. This sounds so terrifying. And let me tell you, it's not. Take a deep breath. It's going to be okay. It's really not that scary. There's multiple ways to get rid of parasites. We can take specific herbs. We can starve them out. We can do some tinctures. There's many different ways because there are many different kind of parasites and they're living in many different places of the body. So if we're going to just do a really basic gut cleanse and we're going to start with the root cause, we're going to start with the foundation, it's going to be a very simple cleanse. But if we're going a little bit deeper and we need to provoke them out of the tissues and the lungs and the muscles and the heart and the brain and all the other muscles in the body, we're going to have to do something a little bit deeper. But I want you to know if you're doing your first parasite cleanse, you're going to start so slow. We do not want to overburden the body. We don't want to shake it up and drop a bomb. We're going to go so slow and we're always going to make sure that you're comfortable. I don't want anyone ever experiencing detox symptoms, feeling awful. That is not the goal. The goal is slow and steady wins the race. Our body is absolutely amazing at detoxing. That's what it does all day long. It's what keeps us alive. That's what our liver's here for. That's what our kidneys here for. Like our body's constantly detoxing. We're just going to help it by doing two different things. Number one, we're going to support the body's detox process. We're going to make sure that we have a lot of nutrients to help support the liver. We're going to take a lot of herbs that are going to help the kidneys cleanse and filter our blood. We're going to make sure we're taking some herbs that are going to scrub the gut lining and get rid of anything that those parasites are feeding on. And then number two, we're going to do some killing. we're going to kill the pathogens, we're going to kill the parasites, we're going to kill the viruses and the candida and all the toxic load that we have going on in there. So, one, we're going to boost the immune system, we're going to boost the nutrients in our body, we're going to help all the organs do their job. And number two, we are going to do some killing of those suckers. So, it's really not so bad. Also, something to know is you're not going to get rid of all the parasites in one parasite cleanse. This is a regular process, especially when you're just beginning. Like I said, I have done over 6 different types of parasite cleanse. And the reason for that is because each herb is going to kill different kinds of parasites, and you're not going to do it all at once. That is way too much on the body. So it's going to be something you're going to commit to for a period of time. I always recommend after you've gotten your health under control, after a lot of these symptoms have gone away and you're feeling good, you're going to want to do a parasite cleanse about twice a year just to make sure that you're always keeping up on it because, again, because you are always coming into contact with parasites. You have pets, you go into lakes and rivers, you eat fruits and veggies, those kind of things. So once we get these things under control, it's going to be something you just incorporate into your lifestyle. Just like many other cultures do. Many other cultures cook with these herbs on a regular basis. We just don't in America. So it's something that you'll actively always be working on. But as we start, it's going to be very slow and steady. And like I said, there's many different kinds of parasite cleanses. So let me describe to you guys a super basic parasite cleanse that I started with. I was very nutrient deficient when I started parasite cleansing. So that is something I always start people with, is making sure that we have a lot of nutrients coming into the body because those parasites have been blocking them for a really long time. So we'll take an herb that's going to kill the parasites. Let's get the pathogenic load down. We're going to take another herb that's going to help heal the gut lining, right? Preventing all that bad stuff from getting into our bloodstream in the first place, heal that gut. And then we're going to take a green drink that's going to help flood the body with lots of nutrients. We got to make sure that we are drinking high vibrational juices, high vibrational greens. They're going to absorb really easily into the body so that your liver can function properly, so your kidneys can detox your bloodstream, so that all the new hormones and all the new brain chemicals can be at their optimal function. And that's pretty much all you do for 10 days. Super basic, gets the foundation going, starts stimulating the healing response in the body, and brings your pathogenic load down. But as you move on into deeper levels of parasite cleansing, the last one I did, you guys, it was insane. I felt so amazing. I did it for 2 months straight because I felt so, so good. And it's a full moon parasite cleanse. So I started it about 2 weeks before the full moon. I took these really potent liquid droppers that gets in and helps rid the body of parasites in the brain and the heart and the lungs and all those organs I've been talking about, goes in really deep and gets them out. And then I was taking another herb to help with parasites in the gut. I was taking a third supplement that was helping scrub the gut lining because these parasites, they can cling on and hold on for dear life, and especially if they've been around for a while, they're tough to get rid of. So this other herb helps scrub the gut lining. It's like a jelly-like substance, and it sucks up the parasites and gets them trapped in this jelly-like substance, and then you excrete it out. And then I took a binder because I was detoxing so fast and so hard because I had gotten my body ready. Now remember, you're not jumping into this one the first time around, but I had prepared my body through all the detoxing over the last 2 years for this parasite cleanse. And I took a binder to help get them out faster. And oh my gosh, it was incredibly transformative for my health and also insanely crazy what I saw come out of me. So that's going to lead me into the frequently asked questions because that is a question people ask me all the time. Am I going to see them come out of me? Well, probably, maybe, possibly. You're going to want to. I mean, honestly, you're going to want to, right? You want to know that what you're doing is working. So I always say it's better that they come out than stay inside of you. You might see them, you might not. It depends on the pathogenic load that you have. It depends on the herbs that you're taking. And oftentimes they can just be impacted in your fecal matter. So unless you're dissecting it and pulling it apart, you might not see them. But once in a while, I have seen some pretty crazy random stuff coming out. Another question I get is it safe if I'm breastfeeding or if I'm pregnant? No, no, and no. A lot of these herbs can disrupt your hormone production. They can disrupt different things in the body. So I always say, let's just be safe. Wait until you are done breastfeeding, and then we can dive into a parasite cleanse. It's just a little too much for your body, especially when you're growing and developing a human. We don't want to put any more strain on your body. So it's okay. Just wait till you're all said and done, and then we can dive into the detoxing process. Another question I get is, can my kids do a parasite cleanse? And they can. It's actually very important that children do parasite cleanse because they can be a little less cleanly. They often play in dirt. They touch each other when they're at school. They really don't have a lot of boundaries. And let's say, for instance, your kid plays with your dog and your dog has ringworm. And then they go to school and they touch a bunch of other kids, and now those kids all get infected with parasites, right? So I would say anyone over the age of 5, that's a really good age where they're able to take different capsules and they're able to explain their symptoms to you. And you can get them in tincture form if you don't want your kids swallowing pills. So there's many different options for children. But yes, I think it is so important, especially as our kids are developing, they're growing their hormones, they're building brain chemicals. I mean, kids are growing their bodies, and we want to make sure that all the foods that you're feeding them are turning into the cells that they need to grow into fully functioning, happy humans. Another question I get is, can I go about living my life, or is this going to prevent me from going to work and going out in public? You can definitely continue life while doing a parasite cleanse. Again, I always make sure that we're not detoxing too hard, that you're not having these horrible die-off reactions. We're going to make sure we go slow and steady and you're able to live your daily life. Now, of course, that's going to lead into people saying, well, can I drink alcohol? I always say whenever you're doing a detox and you're trying to improve the health of your body, let's leave all the toxins out, because this is a time for us to purify, to clean, to rid the body of pathogens that are decreasing our consciousness. Why are we then going to add in chemicals or drugs that are going to decrease our consciousness? So I say while you're parasite cleansing, focus on the good, focus on healing, and you could just take a little pause. Now, let's say you are doing a parasite cleanse and something comes up. This is the thing. People say, well, my birthday's next month, or Christmas, or this event, or a wedding, blah, blah, blah. I can't do a parasite cleanse until after that's over. Well, guess what? You're always going to have something, right? There's always going to be something that comes up. So if there's a major event that you're like, I just want to enjoy my life, okay, let's find a way to do it. I will help guide you. It's very important that you do a parasite cleanse with the help of a coach or with the help of someone who is experienced in parasite cleansing, so that they can make sure that you're doing it safely, you're doing it the right way, and that you can also adjust the schedule to fit your daily life. That's how we're going to make sure you go about living your life, that you can go to work and you can go out with your girlfriends and you can have that occasional drink, is by making sure that we formulate a protocol that works for you. So no excuses. You can always do a parasite cleanse. And then the last question is, how long does it take to get rid of them? Well, like I said before, it can take a while. So it's going to be baby steps. It depends on how much you've already cleansed. It depends how crazy your symptoms are. I mean, so many factors. And again, that's going to take you working with someone who is knowledgeable and educated in parasite cleansing. So that is it for this episode. If you guys have any other questions about parasite cleansing, obviously I'm obsessed with this topic. I think it's so important. I wish every single person would do it so we can boost our mood, so we can boost our hormones, so we can raise our consciousness, and therefore we can begin healing as an individual, as a community, as a collective, because how we feel impacts how we treat other people. So if you are curious, you want to know if parasite cleansing is for you, you need some advice, you need some tips, you need some product recommendations, please reach out to me. Again, my Instagram is mandyrose.1111. I will put my email in the show notes below. Feel free to send me an email with any questions you have, any concerns. And again, I will probably be doing a group parasite cleanse at the beginning of 2022. Group cleanses are always amazing because you're able to go through the process with other people. I always encourage people to have a detox buddy, someone that you can go through it with, that you can complain with, that you can share your experience with. It's always better to do something with the help of someone else. So if you don't have anyone personally in your life around you that is interested in cleansing, group cleanses are a great way to connect with others going through the same thing. Or let me be your accountability buddy. If you're ready to do a parasite cleanse right now, you don't want to wait. If you're catching this episode at any point in time, just reach out to me. That's what I'm here for. I love helping people transform their health by getting to the root cause. That is my jam. And as I wrap up this episode, thank you guys so much for tuning in, for supporting my show, for supporting Holistic Soul Sisters. I'm really excited to expand this brand, and I just want to help as many people as possible heal holistically. And of course, grow spiritually. And it's all connected. When we heal our physical body, we're able to expand our consciousness, expand our spirituality, expand our connection to other people. So make sure you hit subscribe, make sure you hit like. Please share this episode with anyone you think could find value in it. Please, if you get an opportunity, leave me a review on whatever podcast platform you're listening to this episode on. It helps me just connect with more people. It puts me higher up in the algorithm. I know that's an obvious, everyone knows that, but I'm really trying to grow this show and I could definitely use your help and I appreciate it so much. Make sure you tune in next Tuesday for Taboo Topic Tuesday as we dive into the energetic healing mini series. We're going to be talking all about anxiety. We talked a little bit about how it relates to parasite cleansing and how it can help relieve your anxiety. But I want to dive in more about anxiety and how it relates to our energetic surroundings, how we absorb energy, how we clear energy, and how a lot of our anxiety isn't our own. It's the energy we've absorbed from the world and from other people. So giving you guys a different perspective. I know anxiety plagues so many people. It plagued me for literally almost all of my adult life, about 20 years. And I've kind of come out on the other side of it. So I want to give you guys some tools. And then after that, mini series all about energetic healing is going to go super woo-woo for 8 weeks. And I hope you guys are really excited about it. So I will connect with you guys more over on the Instagram. And I will talk to you guys in next week's episode. And until then, keep healing holistically and growing spiritually.